Yo, what up, everybody? It's Blessed Mindset. We about to react to this Piers Morgan video, man. They just dropped debate video. Look like Andrew Wilson's in it. You know what I'm saying, my guy. So let's see what happens, man. You know what I'm saying?
Big, beautiful piece of ice. It's hard to call it land. It's a big piece of ice.
Jens Frederick Nielsen is the Prime Minister of that big, beautiful piece of ice. When you see the White House posting Greenland memes on social media, do you think they should stop?
I think it's insulting. It's outrageous if you think you can buy the Greenlandic people. We are not giving away an inch of our country.
What would you say to the survivors?
You are the worst reporter. No wonder CNN has no ratings because of people like you. I don't think I've ever seen you smile.
I know Caitlin a bit.
Does she smile?
She smiles all the time.
Oh my
but
God,
she doesn't
you're
smile
being
when she's
such
talking.
a baby,
She doesn't.
dude.
Oh, I cracked a joke. Oh. That's the thing that the kids call aura, right?
When America sneezes, the whole world catches a cold, or so the saying goes. That old adage is about the economy, but in the second Trump presidency, it applies equally to almost everything else. Fallout from the Epstein files is currently rippling across the globe. Norway's crown princess has been humbled by her flirty exchanges with the paedophile. The former Prince Andrew has been turfed out of his royal mansion and faces calls to testify in the United States. The sordid dealings of Peter Mandelson, accused of taking cash from Epstein and feeding him government secrets, first cost him his job as US ambassador and could now trigger a national inquiry. Today, the Polish Prime Minister said it's likely that Epstein was, as many apparent conspiracy theorists have long maintained, operating as a foreign spy, not for Israel, in his view, but for Russia. In the US, Bill and Hillary Clinton have allegedly agreed to testify before Congress in a televised hearing which could rival the ratings of the Super Bowl. And we'll dive into all the latest with our panel very shortly. We'll begin with another American sneeze which left the rest of the world shaking and trembling.
Big, beautiful piece of ice. It's hard to call it land. It's a big piece of ice. But we saved Greenland and successfully prevented our enemies from gaining a foothold in our hemisphere. So we did it for ourselves also. And then after the war, which we won it big. Without us, right now you'd all be speaking German and a little Japanese, perhaps. After the war, we gave Greenland back to Denmark. How stupid were we to do that?
Jens Frederick Nielsen is the Prime Minister of that big, beautiful piece of ice, better known as Greenland, and he joins me now. Prime Minister, thank you very much indeed for joining me.
I'm really about to just go ahead and skip this, bro. I don't know who this guy is, bro. I'm just trying to get into the debate, bro.
Is the host of The Crucible, Andrew.
Thank you so much for the
Is
Cheers.
We're listening to that, and ready to discuss much more, is the host of The Crucible, Andrew Wilson, the New York Post correspondent, Lydia Moynihan, the former Republican congressman and host of The Social Contract, Joe Walsh, and the Liberal commentator, Cameron Kasky. Welcome to all of you. Joe Walsh, welcome back to Uncensored. Kind of fascinating conversation there with a Prime Minister I doubt anybody had heard of before about a month ago, and then suddenly he's propelled onto the global stage. He's a smart, eloquent guy, but interesting that for him the red line, not an inch of sovereignty, shall pass to the United States. What did you make of it?
First off, Piers, good to be back with you. Secondly, Piers, great interview. Well done. How refreshing and cool is that guy? And he's 34 years old. Man, that's the first time I've heard him speak extensively. Look, I love that. And that was my biggest takeaway was back off on sovereignty. This is our country. Back off respectfully. He was utmost, respect to Donald Trump, even though Donald Trump deserves zero respect from him with the way that Trump and Vance have treated him and his people. But Pierce, that was the biggest takeaway, is that, look, the United States, you've got as much military access on Greenland as you want. This isn't about military access with Trump. It's never been. He can't say that because that prime minister is too nice and decent. But this is all about Trump wanting to put his name on something and Trump financially wanting to get Greenland's natural resources. What a great young man, a great young leader.
Andrew Wilson, we're going to come much later in the show to your conversation with Joe Rogan about my shattered hip and the life expectancy that the pair of you decided to come up with, which basically inferred
Wait a second. I thought I was nice. I thought I was super nice.
You were actually. No, you were. Although you were the first to suggest alcohol had played a part in my downfall, and I can categorically assure you, zero alcohol had passed my lips, which actually.
Well, I mean, it would have
makes the
played a
whole
part
thing
in my
more
downfall. That's what I thought. It's like,
well, actually,
it would have been
actually, a doctor friend of mine said, had I been intoxicated, I would have had a much easier fall. I'd have basically rolled, and I wouldn't have caused such damage. Anyway, we're going to come to that later because it made me laugh. Welcome back to Uncensored. It was a great interview, actually, with you and Joe. I really enjoyed that. This issue of Greenland, I mean, let's extrapolate this really to a wider worldview that Trump seemed to have. which is, I can take what I want. The United States is so big, so powerful. We have the world's biggest military. If I want Greenland, I'm going to help myself. Do you, as an American, do you feel comfortable about that kind of mindset, particularly relating to a country that is under the sovereignty of a NATO ally, which not just any old NATO ally? The Danes actually lost, I think, the third.
So is he saying that Greenland is under NATO?
There's highest number of people in the Afghanistan war, for example, when they came and fought with Americans against the Taliban per capita. I think it was the highest per capita, actually, were the Danes. So, the Americans owe the Danes a lot, and yet here you've got the president saying, yeah, I may just come and take it. What do you feel about that?
Well, I don't know exactly what the strategic reason actually is.
Yes, Greenland is under NATO, guys.
And that's the big problem, right?
See, that's exactly what I was thinking too. I'm like, my question is why does Trump want Greenland? What is it? Like, why?
We do know that there's a lot of natural resources there. And we know that Trump wants to buy it. We know that the United States wants to stay a global hegemon, and however it needs to stay a global hegemon, it's going to do whatever that means, right? Whether it's Trump or not Trump. In this particular case, I do think that Trump thought he could probably buy this outright, but they're not selling. As far as the memes and things like that, I don't think that's a huge deal at all. As far as I'm concerned, this is still something which is going on under negotiation. And I think he's going to try to buy it. I think he's going to try to buy it for the strategic interest of the United States. And good luck to him. Maybe it'll be the 51st state.
Well, Cameron Katke, welcome to Uncensored. I've been saying from the start of this debate about Greenland, there are only 60,000 of them. You're not talking about millions of people. And
60,000
people
in Greenland.
As wealthy or poor or whatever. I'm not sure exactly of the economic breakdown of Greenlanders. But if they were, for example, as I posited to the Prime Minister, to vote in a referendum to be independent, which, notwithstanding what he said, most people think is more likely to happen, that they would vote to go independent. If the Americans made an offer, significant financial offer, to enrich the lives of each Greenlander, I can see that potentially being an option they may take.
Well, in Europe, they have healthcare, and I think that's what a lot of people want. In the United States, you can get sick and just go broke, and that's something that Donald Trump is not willing to do anything about. But the Greenland situation boils down to the fact that the global order that was established after World War II to prevent something like that from happening again is something that President Trump is more than happy to not only disrupt but chip away at if it serves the interest of whoever he is working for. So the Greenland situation, in my opinion, is Trump just happily playing Risk because he likes throwing power and tough talk around. But ultimately, it's something that is going to be very damaging to the United States, to our reputation, which has already taken so many hits in the past year. And being a global power is not just about what type of force and threats of violence you can throw around. It's not about what type of money you can throw around. It's about partnerships and building trust with other leaders. And in the past year, Donald Trump has given places like the EU a lot of reason to believe that we are not a stable partner. And that's why I think a lot of those countries are going to be turning to China, and it is going to backfire for generations.
They're not turning to China.
Yeah, I mean,
That's possible, though.
Yeah, I don't think
you can look at what they're doing financially.
No, not if you look at what they're doing financially. No, the United States is still the hegemon. It's going to stay the hegemon. The EU is not going to do anything about it. There's mayors of cities here. I believe in the United States have more than 60,000 people. You guys have TDS, and everything Trump does is evil and awful and this and that. But the truth is that this is a hegemon. It is the global hegemon. And if we want to leverage our nation in order to acquire more land in our strategic interests, we're going to do that. And the EU is not going to do anything about it. And that's the truth.
Okay. All right. Let me bring in Lydia. Welcome to Uncensored, Lydia. Good to have you on. Do you agree with that? I mean, a lot of people feel that talking that way about a country owned by a NATO ally is at best disrespectful, and at worst the actions of a bully, right? Somebody who just says, you know what, if we want it, we're going to take it, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Well, if you take a line out of Billie Eilish's book, no one is illegal on stolen land. So I think we have every right to it, according to her logic. Look, I don't think we should use military force. I don't think that's going to be happening. But look, people have wanted Greenland in the U.S. since William Seward back in the 1800s. When he purchased Alaska, he also wanted to get Greenland. Truman, once again, tried to get Greenland. And the history of the U.S. is purchasing land. The Louisiana Purchase, Alaska, the Virgin Islands, about 100 years ago, we purchased from the Danes as well. So I think it's very reasonable that Trump wants to expand his footprint, and if this is the kind of thing that he can get done, we know he loves deal making. I think more power to him, and it is an important strategic asset. Of course, it's very close to the Arctic, to China, to Russia. It's an important place to launch potentially missiles. The cool climate makes it perfect for data centers that can cool naturally. There are those rare earth minerals that right now we don't have in the U.S. So I think it would be great if we can cobble together some kind of deal that everyone is happy with. More power to him.
Okay, let's move on to
Yeah. I mean, the goal is to make a deal and not just force your will upon others, you know. So I was liking what this guy was talking about, you know what I'm saying? The idea of cooperation, negotiation, you know what I'm saying? Just not taking it by force. With the Maduro thing, I understand why it was kind of like niggas gonna take things by force, because it's like, if you're a corrupt leader, it's like, bro, we need to take a nigga out, bro. Like, it is what it is. I think that taking a nigga out that's a dictator is not a bad thing. If you're a dictator, nigga, you need to be out. Nigga, like, I don't care about you, bro. The nigga was stealing money from the Venezuelan people. Niggas is killing multiple people, you know what I'm saying? Somebody cite me on this, but I was hearing like nigga killed over 18,000. You know what I'm saying? Somebody fact check it, but you know what I'm saying? I know he killed a lot of niggas, like, so taking that nigga out is different than, I think, the Greenland shit. I don't know shit about Greenland, but it just seems like, you know, the nigga Trump, he just trying to, you know, take it over. But I think that it should be cooperation, negotiations in place.
Other big stuff in the news. Joe, the Epstein scandal. So many things pouring out of this massive drop of stuff that came in the last few days. Interestingly to me, because I'm in London at the moment, the consequences of this dump have been dramatic in the UK, right? Yeah. We are currently engulfed by what I would say with some confidence is the biggest royal scandal in my lifetime and the biggest political scandal in my lifetime, both happening simultaneously as a direct consequence of the former Prince Andrew, now Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, and Lord Mandelson, who I suspect will soon not be a lord and may well be propping up a prison cell, who was the UK ambassador to Washington. You know, these guys are toppling like dominoes. But what's interesting is we're not seeing Americans toppling like dominoes, even though there's a plethora of big-name Americans in there. What's going on here? Why is it that America, for some reason, is not exacting accountability in the same immediate, dramatic way that we're doing, say, in the UK?
And Piers, kudos to you over there, because yes, you are beginning to aggressively hold the rich and the powerful, the elites, accountable for their relationships with the pedophile, the head of the pedophilia ring, Jeffrey Epstein. We're not doing that here. Republican, Democrat, independent business leaders, political leaders, there are a bunch of rich and powerful, elite people, men in these files, and we're not going near them. I think the president of the United States right now is doing everything he can to protect them. I think he's using the Justice Department to protect powerful people. Again, Republican and Democrat across the board. We're not holding them accountable. And Piers, I'll leave you with this. Look, the current president of the United States is mentioned in these files thousands and thousands of times. There are allegations, just allegations, Piers. There are allegations in these files that Donald Trump raped underage girls and threatened to kill an underage girl.
But let me stop you there, Joe. But here's the problem. Yeah, but Joe, here's the problem. Those have already been looked at, instantly dismissed as the stuff of fantasy. The problem, if you're Donald Trump, is that absolutely anyone could call in with any outrageous allegation, and it gets logged and then appears in these files. I think we've got to be a bit...
So by what Piers Morgan is saying is that a lot of people already dismissed the lies that he was, you know, raping people and, you know, doing these type of bad things that they claim. Or like what Andrew Wilson was talking about in the last, you know, debate that he had with that Brian Shapiro dude. He was saying that there's not enough evidence. You know what I'm saying? There's not enough evidence, you know, but like I said, if Trump really was doing all this stuff that, you know, Epstein was doing, he needs to get punished. Rape is a terrible thing, you know, and people need to get punished for it. But what Andrew Wilson was saying and what Piers was saying is that there's just not enough evidence. You know what I'm saying? Anybody can just go up to niggas and say that niggas raped them and did this and did that. You gotta come with that evidence. If not, then it's a sad story if niggas get away with it. You know, it is sad. But you have to come with some type of evidence. You know what I'm saying?
More grown up about how we approach this. Nobody thinks Donald Trump raped children, right? I mean, you don't think that. I don't think that. And it's already been dismissed by the investigators as the stuff of just a nefarious caller wanting to do damage to him. However, I would caveat that by saying, I don't think it's enough that there are still millions of files that are not being released. Yeah. Right? I don't think it's enough. And I've always felt, because I talked to David Boies, who was Virginia Giuffre's lawyer.
There's not enough files released.
Modern history. He said he'd never seen anything which pinned
Trump to
criminality with Epstein. Yes, he had a long
take that
friendship
into
with him.
account.
Yes, that was obviously very embarrassing. Yes, you know, he should be more transparent about it, I think, rather than trying to shut it down all the time. But no one's produced any actual evidence that suggests criminality with Trump. However,
Piers, the only point I'm making is Donald Trump is one of a very rich, powerful person who will probably never be held accountable. I mean, Bill Clinton, Republican, Democrat, business leaders across the board. My fear is none of these guys will be held accountable for what they did.
Okay, let me bring Andrew in on that, because a really interesting development is that, having said they wouldn't testify to the House about this, the inquiry, Bill and Hillary Clinton have now done a U-turn and are going to testify, which is fascinating on its own. Bill will appear for a deposition 27th of February. Hillary will appear the day before. It'll be the first time a former US president has testified to a congressional panel since Gerald Ford in 1983. So really quite an historic moment it's going to be, and it'll be huge televised ratings, I'm sure. What's even more interesting to me is not their U-turn, but Donald Trump's reaction. Let's take a look.
Today we heard that the Clintons set deposition dates to testify before the House Oversight Committee. Any reaction to that related to the Epstein?
I think it's a shame, to be honest. I always liked him. Her, she's a very capable woman. She was better in debating than some of the other people, I will tell you that. She was smarter.
I mean, I've never heard Donald Trump talk about Hillary Clinton like that. What's going on?
Well, I mean, what do you want? If he's making fun of her, you're upset. If he's not making fun of her, they're upset, right?
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm like, this time this nigga really ain't making fun of her for real. What the fuck? It was like weird. It's like I was expecting that nigga to crack some jokes.
Like, what do you want?
Well, I'm not upset. I'm not upset by any of it. I'm just saying he's gone from lock her up to suddenly it's all a great shame when she's facing an inquiry that might actually lead to potentially locking her up.
Yeah, I don't think that that's what's going on at all. I think that the Clintons want to go in and they want to clear their name, right? They've been mentioned that you have this kind of weight around Bill's neck. It's been well known that Clinton himself is a philanderer, right? But that doesn't mean that he is a chomo. And this is one of the reasons I think they're rushing in there. Same thing with Elon Musk. It's going to be the same thing. He was mentioned in the Epstein files. I think he's going to want to clear his name as well. What we don't have right now is evidences of wrongdoing, and that's what we got to find, right? We got to make sure that there's actual evidence of wrongdoing before we have guys come on panels like this and start talking about how everyone's a child molester. It's like, look, I want to see some evidence of that. Does that mean that we should release the rest of the files? I think we should release the rest of the files. I don't think anybody's opposed to that. That's something
release
some.
Donald Trump and the
By the way, I didn't look at none of the files.
Justice Department are pretty opposed to that, it seems. I mean, Trump has kind of switched around between.
It's not just Trump's Justice Department. If Joe Biden could have released these as well. If Trump was really in them, and the Biden administration had any knowledge that Trump was diddling kids, it would have been the most irresponsible thing on planet Earth to not have released that.
That's a fact.
So why didn't they? Well, they didn't because there's no evidence.
Why didn't Biden and them release that? If he was really doing it, though, that's a good philosophical question.
No, it's because there's no
they didn't release
evidence
them because. I'm happy to tell you why they didn't release them. Joe Biden had absolutely no desire to challenge the global elite at all. I'm sure plenty of Joe Biden's donors and friends are completely incriminated in the Epstein files. And ultimately, whether or not there was evidence of Donald Trump committing any files, Joe Biden was not going to disappoint the American elite, the many powers that are in these files, and also the Mossad, which is one of the main characters.
I sold my soul to the devil when the price was cheap. And yo, it's cold on this level because it's twice as deep. But you don't hear me. Ignorance is bliss and so on. Sometimes it's better to be thought dumb. Shall I go on? That's that DMX, nigga. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like that idea of Martin Luther King. You know what I'm saying? If you see some niggas doing some wrong shit and you don't speak up for it, nigga, you're just as bad as the niggas doing wrong shit, nigga. So if Biden knew that Trump was doing this shit, why didn't he release the files? Why?
The files. So no, I don't think Joe Biden wasn't releasing the
MI6
files because of
or MI6 or any of the other intelligence groups which were working within the Epstein framework. But that's not really the point. The point that I'm after here is if Democrats said or thought in any way, shape, or form that Trump actually was diddling kids, underage kids, they would have by any means necessary released that to have stopped Trump. They didn't because there is no evidence of that happening. That's why.
Well, the Democrats are trying to release it right now. It's the Republicans, except for Thomas Massey, that are trying to stop it.
This nigga ducking the question.
Well, okay, so let me bring in
this guy, this nigga in the black shirt, not Andrew Wilson, other nigga.
As Andrew says, and as I absolutely believe. I mean, I just think if you don't, forever we're going to be dealing with, well, what's in the ones we haven't seen?
Of course. No, I mean, I kind of feel like right now we have the worst of all possible worlds. Obviously, the goal of releasing the files should be transparency and justice. And right now we have a little bit more transparency. We have some tawdry details about Bill Gates allegedly getting an STD. But when we look at what was released, 43 victims' names that should have been redacted were not redacted. There were unredacted images of nude photos of young children. I mean, it was kind of a disaster. And so my concern is if we do release more, we're going to see more victims harmed. And to your point earlier, Piers, I mean, it's kind of insane that we're reading all of this really damning info about Bill Gates and Reid Hoffman, and yet they all seem to be skating by scot-free, and yet it's like Peter Attia, a longevity guru who's getting kicked off the board of a protein bar company. So I feel like
man,
right now,
that nigga Trump need to go to jail if he on that shit,
I mean,
bro.
You look at some of the names that were redacted. There's
but
this one email to Epstein
niggas need evidence.
Oh, your little girl was really naughty last night, and that name is redacted. I'd like to see who that person was.
I agree. Who are these people whose names we haven't been told?
Conspiracy theories are just out of control, right? You have people saying, oh,
yeah, I agree.
Trump.
That's real shit though, bro. That actually happened to me before, bro. I used to hang out with this one nigga, bro, and I swear to God, bro, all this nigga did was rob niggas, bro. All the nigga did was rob niggas, bro. And then niggas start trying to place me in the same box as this nigga, like, oh yeah, this nigga be with him, so this nigga be robbing niggas too, son. And then niggas thought that I was the nigga breaking in niggas' houses and shit. Like, nah, nigga, I ain't never breaking your house, son. Just because this nigga that I roll with was doing that shit. But actually, that actually means that you have to be careful who you be around, because niggas will really think in the back of their mind that you doing some shit when you really not doing nothing. You know what I'm saying? So in terms of Trump, the reason why niggas think that he's over here, you know, doing these things to kids and doing a bunch of weird shit is because it's a fact that he knew Epstein. You know what I'm saying? He was rolling with him. But just because a nigga was rolling with him don't mean that he was on the same shit. I got niggas that's in the hood hitting licks, selling drugs, but it don't mean that I'm doing the same thing. But some niggas will perceive that.
Raped a 12-year-old, which is not true. The Wayfair conspiracy is back. So I kind of think we have more confusion, less transparency, and it's, you know, really bad for the victims at this point.
Let me bring Joe in. I mean, Joe, before you respond, I mean, I talked about this yesterday, but, you know, Elon Musk, for example, has been, you know, pounding away on his X account about how he's led the charge for transparency, he's better than all the others, blah, 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 blah. And yet when you compare and contrast his denials and saying, I always rejected all invitations to go to the island, to go to the parties and so on, and you compare them to the emails that have actually been in the files in real time, which show Elon Musk very keen to get on the island and go to the wildest parties, it turned out. So when people do that, when we can see with our own eyes that they're not being completely honest about their own position, I'm not saying for a moment Elon Musk did anything wrong or criminal or anything, but I do know what he's trying to spin about what he said in those emails is not accurate, which then raises a number of other questions.
Yeah, and Piers, it goes to the other point you raised a few minutes ago, Trump's odd reaction, kind of complimenting Bill and Hillary Clinton. I think it just goes to this bipartisan protection racket. They're all going to try to protect each other. That's why. And again, just one final point, Piers, the context here. Remember, before Trump got elected, Trump promised to release these files if he became president. J.D. Vance said the same thing. I come from the right. Every right-wing talker promised. If Trump wins, we're going to release them all. This will be the mother of all deep state scandals. So then Trump wins, and he says no. That's the basis for so much of...
That nigga got a strong argument.
The confusion here.
Yeah.
There is
okay,
confusion,
look.
but don't you think that if there was something super damning in there about him, he wouldn't have campaigned on that? Obviously, he was the one to bring it up. Joe Biden, Democrats weren't talking about this at all.
Yeah, Lydia, I don't actually think, and I haven't done for a while, particularly since talking to David Boyce, because he had no reason to defend Trump, quite the opposite. He said he'd looked at the files and there was nothing in there that incriminates Trump. I've never felt that Donald Trump himself has committed any crime in relation to Epstein, but I do think there are a lot of people in the potential criminality firing line who may well be Republican donors or maybe friends of his, business associates, who knows, right? We just don't know.
That's a strong argument too. He's basically saying that even if Trump ain't do none, he might be protecting his bros. And that's the same argument I was saying about Joe Biden too, bro. Like, you know, if you see some niggas doing something greasy, I mean, and you don't speak up about it, it's similar that you did it, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, he might just be trying to protect his homies. And I understand that aspect in terms of the loyalty shit. It's a hard one because you see your nigga over here like cheating on his girl, and it don't really got nothing to do with you, or you just gonna be like try to snitch on him. You know what I'm saying, and cause that chaos. Cause that's your bro, but at the same time he's doing some greasy shit. So it's kind of like, damn. The philosophical question is, should I speak up? And that might be what Trump is on.
But I do know if you don't put all the documents out, as you said, Lydia, the conspiracy theories will just rage and rage and rage. And this scandal is already massive. I mean, it's hard to think of a bigger scandal of its kind that we've seen in our lifetimes. And it's only going to get bigger, I suspect. We don't even know, we haven't even been through probably a tenth of what's in the current dump. Let's just turn to another issue. Andrew, I'll come to you on this. A clip of last night, this is in the Oval Office, I think. It's Donald Trump attacking CNN's Caitlin Collins for not smiling.
And now that nothing came out about me, other than it was a conspiracy against me, literally, by Epstein and other people. But I think it's time now for the country to maybe get onto something else.
Well, what would you say to people who feel like they haven't gotten justice, Mr. President?
Something that people care about. Yeah, what did you say?
What would you say to the survivors who feel like they haven't gotten
justice? You are the worst reporter. No wonder CNN has no ratings because of people like you. I don't think I've ever seen you smile. I've known you for 10 years. I don't think I've ever seen a smile on your face.
I'm asking you about survivors.
You know why you're not smiling? Because you know you're not telling the truth. And you're a very dishonest organization.
Yo.
And they should be ashamed of you.
These are survivors of sexual abuse.
Bro, this nigga has no filter, bro. This nigga's wild, bro.
No, Andrew, full disclosure, I know Caitlin a bit. I used to do the 9 o'clock slot at CNN.
I respect it because he's real. He's actually honest on who he is, but it's like, damn, a president doing that? Usually you'll think a president more professional. But I respect it as a philosopher because if that's truly who he is, then that's lit.
She does that now. I think she's a great journalist, a great correspondent.
Does she smile?
Fair. She smiles all the time.
Oh my
but
God,
she doesn't
you're
smile
being
when she's
such
talking.
a baby. You could just say
she
it's
doesn't
bad
smile
when
when.
the president's
Hang on. Cameron, I'll come to you. Cameron.
Oh no, cracked a joke. Cracked a joke.
Yeah, here's my point. Andrew, here's my point. Donald Trump has taken in the last sort of year or so to being pretty offensive to female correspondents in particular. Should he do that, or should he be a little bit more respectful?
Yeah, Trump's whole stylistic is being very combative with media. It's one of the things that really worked with him as a strategy in dealing with them. It's one of the most endearing parts of Trump when it comes to the American public's perception of him is the fact that he's extremely combative with the media. And let's not pretend that it's not a big game on both sides. Both sides are playing it. They both enjoy it. It's like a game of cat and mouse, right? Can I get Trump's goat? Oh, I did. Trump kind of had a little go off on me. Now it's big news, right? It's part of the combative nature that he has with the media. It's probably one of the guy's most endearing qualities, honestly. I know everybody is always freaking out about it, but that's the thing that the kids call aura, right? The whole idea that he can have these engagements with these media personalities and it goes viral and people are laughing and they're having a good time. I mean, it's part of this guy's personality. Always has been.
I mean, Lydia, I don't think for a moment Caitlin will lose any sleep over it. She's a tough cookie. I think she'll probably be quite enjoying the attention on it. It just makes her a little bit more famous and probably gets more people tuning in. But as a woman yourself, if you were disparaged in that way by the President of the United States, whoever it was, would you think that's the right way to talk to female correspondents?
I'll be sick if he says some shit to me like that.
If I was advising Trump, I would not encourage him to do that. Yeah, you don't want to comment on people's appearances, tell a woman to smile. That's just not what he should be focused on. But I guess I understand the point of a lot of folks in the MAGA base want to see him sort of own the libs and own the media. But I think there's a way of doing that in a way that isn't offensive to a woman
You
and her
don't think it's
decision
hilarious?
to smile
You
or
don't think
frown.
you don't think that that's hilarious? Like, it's objectively hilarious when he has these exchanges with media. And media kind of, I've seen them go out of their way to kind of make the exchanges happen even because they know it's going to be all over the news. It's news itself when he has these exchanges with these various women. And I mean, are you really pretending that it's not hilarious? It is hilarious, right?
Andrew, let's just
I
acknowledge.
don't think it's objective. I think it's subjectively hilarious. And obviously, you feel that way. There's a lot of people who feel that way. If I was advising Trump, I would not encourage him to take that tack.
I mean, you're smiling right now because you know it's funny, but whatever. All right. Fair enough.
Yeah, but I do think it's important. Okay, I'll come to Joe, but I do think it's important to remember that, as Caitlin pointed out, he got a bit drowned out, but she was asking him a question about the Epstein survivors. That is not something you would normally crack a smile about as you did it. But, you know, I don't dispute that Trump's style is popular with people, and sometimes he makes me laugh. I do find it a little bit ugly, I have to be honest, Joe, the way he's gone after some of these female correspondents. And knowing Caitlin, I think she's one of the fairer ones anyway. I never see bias with her. It's not like when Jim Acosta used to, you know, literally game those Oval Office pressers and try and make a name for himself.
Yeah, there are a lot of people out there who want to be the story. She's not one of them.
Well, we saw it with Don. We actually saw it with Don Lemon as a classic example, which I was going to come to, because Don Lemon actually all that's happened by going so hardball after Don Lemon, Joe, is it's turned him into a martyr and it's revived his whole career. He's now on Jimmy Kimmel. He's now doing all these big interviews. He's getting big numbers for his YouTube show and so on. I mean, the only winner out of all that is Don Lemon.
Completely, Piers. Absolutely, completely. He's taken Don Lemon to another level in the stratosphere because he went after him on a case that I think will be dropped. Before you get to Lemon, and I know people want to talk about Lemon, again, this point needs to be made.
Don Lemon.
I know there are a lot of people who love that Trump does this, and I know there are a lot of people who find it funny. But it is also ugly because he has a particular long-standing habit of attacking the physical appearances of female reporters. There ain't nothing funny about that. Miss Piggy, hey, Miss Piggy from a couple months ago, he said to a female reporter.
Bro, I actually support Trump on saying that, bro. She was like interrogating the nigga, bro. He just came back with some fire, Miss Piggy. Like,
reporter, shut up, Miss Piggy. Come on, that's not funny.
Yeah,
he said it's not
funny.
funny. That shit funny as hell, man.
Okay, but if somebody said that about someone called Melania Miss Piggy, for example, Trump would go nuts, right? So, you know, let's be clear. He wouldn't find it funny.
And if he did go nuts about that, that would also be funny. The thing is like, I think we're like missing
keeping it logically
through the
consistent
trees here, right? Yes, it was funny. It was hilarious. It went uber viral. Everybody was talking about it. And a lot of people were laughing about it because it was really funny. It's very unorthodox the way he engages with people, and it's very different. And because of that, people pay close attention to it because they think it's hilarious. And it's like, I'm tired of pretending that it's not. I talk to leftists all the time. They get so upset about this stuff, and it's like, come on. People, even I know a lot of them must laugh when they watch. Like Piers, there's some of those exchanges, you got to laugh at them, don't you?
Of course I do. Listen, I spoke to Trump 3-4 days ago. He called me for a chat. He made me laugh out loud 3 or 4 times. The guy, actually was very interesting. It was a comedian last week. I can't remember who it was. It was a comedian who said that he speaks to a lot of comedians on the circuit, on the big pro circuit, and they all agree that whatever you think of his politics, Trump is a natural, brilliant comedian. They all agree. They think his comedic timing.
That nigga is funny as hell, man.
Crowd laugh is like nothing they've seen in any politician. And I think
Piers, did you think it was funny yesterday? Piers, did you think what he said about Caitlin to Caitlin was funny?
Because I know Caitlin wouldn't care, and I know she didn't. I texted with her afterwards because I know she wouldn't care. I just thought she'll just think it's funny in terms of she doesn't care.
Did you think when he called the female reporter Miss Piggy, Piers, you didn't think that was funny?
No, I didn't like that. I didn't like that. I didn't think that was funny. I don't think being derogatory about a woman's looks when they're professional journalists trying to do their job. I just think it crosses.
But wasn't it?
You know,
I swear she was like interrogating the nigga low key, bro, and that's why he said that. Am I tripping? Somebody fact check me, man. Hey, that's about to be my slogan. Somebody fact check me, nigga. Ah, shit. Somebody fact check me.
And it's just being a gentleman, right? And I don't think you should, if you're a man, why would you want to be that guy?
But the same media groups, these same media groups attack him overwhelmingly over his appearance. They attack Melania over her appearance. They attack him all day and all night, these representatives of these media companies. And Trump's like,
Andrew,
I'll give him a little smack back. And
I know.
like, oh my God, how could he? It's just ridiculous.
I think that's a very fair point. I was about to make it to Cameron, which is if you look at the coverage of the Melania movie, some of the reviews have been savagely personal about her, including how she looks, even though, to me, whatever you think of the Trumps, if you can love them or hate them, Melania, to me, as a fashion icon, is up there with Jackie Kennedy. I mean, she's just the most stylish First Lady since Jackie Kennedy. You can't argue that fact to me. But the Trump derangement syndrome, and I think, I may say this with respect, I think you might be a bit of a sufferer of this, means that all bets are off when it comes to the Trumps, right? You can say what you like about them. And therefore, as Andrew said, when the response is to feign outrage when it comes back a bit, it's like, well, okay, you've been calling him a Nazi for years. Everyone's been hammering Melania in these reviews. You know, what's the difference?
Well, Caitlin Collins didn't just release a $75 million documentary about herself. She was asking Donald Trump to comment on the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's child sex trafficking rape ring. So the thought that an appropriate response to somebody asking about the systematic rape and allegedly murder of women being orchestrated by Jeffrey Epstein and the global elite, the thought that the response to that is, why don't you smile a little, is a bit more incriminating than even Donald Trump going on to say that the Epstein scam was a hoax, which he did say. I mean, he went from campaigning on releasing the Epstein files to saying it's a hoax, to saying that he's completely vindicated. It's extremely inconsistent. The one thing that has remained consistent with Donald Trump since the 1990s and before is sexism.
Cameron. Okay, but Cameron, let me stop you there, because you, as you know, you were on a CNN panel last week, and you had to apologize after saying this.
I am appreciative that the president is being transparent about this. I would love it if he was more transparent about the human sex trafficking network that he was a part of, but you can't win them all.
Cameron's grateful that the president is being transparent about the Nobel Peace Prize and his desires for Greenland. Scott, what do you think about that?
You gonna let that sit? Are we gonna claim here on CNN that the president is part of a global sex trafficking ring, or?
Well, we're going to talk about the Epstein files. Scott, I will do the fact checking as we go along here. Repeat what you said about the global sex trafficking ring.
That Donald Trump was provably very involved with it.
Okay, we'll get to that later. I mean, Donald Trump has never been charged with any crimes in relation to Jeffrey Epstein.
Now, you issued an apology the next day on X. You said you had made the claim by accident, and that Donald Trump was obviously not involved with a giant international child sex trafficking ring. And yet, when you were given the chance to correct your accidental slur against him, which was a hoax, I mean, what you said was completely untrue, you didn't. You doubled down. You said it again. So it wasn't an accident. You genuinely believed it, and I would argue, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I would argue that is an example where your visceral hatred of Trump means in your head all bets are off. You don't have to treat him like you would somebody else in public life. You can accuse him of being part of a global human trafficking ring, and when you're challenged, double down on that. And it's only when there's a massive backlash and you realize you might get sued that you then say, oh, I didn't mean it, it was an accident. And that's an example, I would say, of somebody who you can't see the wood for the trees with Trump.
Well, I think Donald Trump should sue a lot of people for a lot of the ridiculous claims that have been made about his involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. And I think that well, if he does, he's going to have to go to discovery, and he's going to have to testify under oath. And fortunately, we know there's a lot of information that can be revealed that will prove just how innocent the president is, which of course I
but you admit you lied about it, though. Yeah, but Cameron, do you admit you lied about it?
Well, I didn't just make one mistake. I made 2 mistakes in a row. And if the president chooses to seek legal action, we're going to learn a lot in discovery and when he testifies under oath, and he's going to be completely vindicated. He's made it very clear.
That wasn't my question. My question wasn't that you made a mistake. My question was that you lied. You just perpetrated a willful lie to denigrate Trump and accuse him of being probably the most heinous allegation you can make about any man is he was part of a global human trafficking operation.
That's fucked up.
Twice.
I know, and it's one thing to tell a lie once, but to make that mistake, to say something so horrible as a mistake like that twice is just so unacceptable. And if the president wants to, I mean, there's a lot of people who make these claims. Well, why did you do it? We all make accidents, and Donald Trump, I mistook his deep involvement with Jeffrey Epstein over the years, with an involvement with Jeffrey Epstein's human sex trafficking ring.
Maybe this dude's genuine. I don't know. If he's genuine about the apology and the mistake, we should forgive him. But if not, then.
And it's very clear the president was not involved with any criminal activity. He was just extremely close with Jeffrey Epstein, who had been doing this for a very, very long time. And I think that the president has every right to prove to everybody that he is completely innocent. And there's a lot of evidence that will show that he's innocent, which I maintain that he is.
Actually, he doesn't have to do anything. It's down to people like you who are on the airways talking about this to stick to facts. And I put it to you that your hatred of Trump is so demented that you just didn't think it mattered. You had convinced yourself he was right up there with Epstein in running a global trafficking ring. So I'll give you an opportunity now, because Donald Trump watches Uncensored every now and again. Would you like to apologize to him for the hoax that you perpetrated?
Mr. President, I apologize for accidentally perpetrating something that is clearly a hoax. And honestly, once more and more of these Epstein files get released, I look forward to you being completely vindicated, because clearly you couldn't stand this Epstein guy, and he couldn't stand you either.
I mean, it seemed like the first part he was keeping it G. I don't really understand what he was saying that last part, but he did keep it G at first.
Okay, so you admit it wasn't an accident, was it? You said it deliberately. That's not an accident.
This nigga Piers, he ain't accepted his apology. Yo!
Took Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump's involvement with one another, with Donald Trump being involved with parts of Jeffrey Epstein's business that there is no evidence he has been involved with. And fortunately, Donald Trump has a huge opportunity to set the record straight by ending this Epstein cover-up.
Actually, you know what? Right now, Cameron, it's you that has that opportunity, and people will judge your wheelie-mouthed apology in the way they want to judge it. You should just admit you just got it completely wrong.
Wheelie mouth?
I did.
The fuck is a wheelie mouth?
There's no evidence he's part of a global human trafficking ring.
No, I'm saying there's a lot of evidence that he's completely vindicated, and I really hope he releases it because people are going to continue saying the wrong thing like I did.
He doesn't need to release it. When you make a claim like that,
if I was to make a claim on releasing it.
Well, if I was to make a claim, hang on, Cameron. If I was to make a claim like that about you, I would have to substantiate it with actual facts. There is no factual evidence to support that claim that you made.
Yeah, listen, he should release it, but like Piers said, bro, still no facts of what bro's saying. You have to bring evidence to make make huge claims like that. You know what I'm saying?
Know it. We know it. It wasn't an accident because you were asked about it in the moment, and you doubled down and said it again. It wasn't an accident.
Well, you know how it gets on those.
You believed it.
Well, in a very high-pressure environment, you can end up making mistakes multiple times because you get very caught up in the theatrics of it. And unfortunately, the situation with debate is that debate is very much a show, it's a performance. You could say something's against the law and people will say, oh yeah, what law is it against? And if you can't name that law off the top of your head, they technically win the debate, and then you could look up the law afterwards and suddenly be able to prove it, but too late, the debate is over. So I buckled under the pressure of a high-pressure environment, and I made not only one, but two terrible mistakes. And again, I think it's up to the president to set the record straight because people are going to continue to perpetrate these lies, and I don't think that's reasonable. I think that needs to come to an end.
Only people who hate him so much they don't care about facts are going to be in that position.
I try not to hate politicians. I try to look at politicians from a utilitarian perspective, and I think the president is in a place to do a lot of good right now. And the president has so much power that can be used to make the world a better place. And my hope
the
Donald
problem,
Trump
Cameron, is when you say something like he was part of a human global trafficking ring, you do the cause of holding Trump to account irreparable damage. And I'm not sure you entirely get that, because actually by going that hard wrong about Trump, it just devalues everything else you then say about it. That's the problem.
Well, this is something we've talked about, is the Epstein situation is just so murky because the zone is so flooded with misinformation, and a lot of people.
So why don't you just stick to facts? Stick to facts. Literally stick to.
Nigga said stick to facts. Yeah, the nigga said, bro did. I'm gonna show love to bro a little bit. He was saying how like there's so much information on the internet that you could be mistaken with facts. And this nigga Piers Moore, he said stick to facts, nigga. I don't give a fuck how much information, nigga. Stick to fucking facts. Yo.
Fact. It's much easier. I promise you. If you're
much easier
under the pressure of appearing on panel shows like this and saying completely outrageous things which are lies, my advice to you is to take a bit of a chill pill, study information a little bit more detailed, study facts, and talk about facts. You can put your spin on the facts. What you can't do is invent allegations of people being part of a global human trafficking setup.
Nah, that is crazy though.
End on a happier note. I want to play the
that
clip
shit
of you
funny
and
as
Rogan talking
fuck.
about my shattered hip.
Yeah. Every time I see anybody who's 60s, they get the hip injury, it's bad.
Yeah, it's not good. I think they think your lifespan at post hip surgery is like 10 years.
Yeah, it's right. And
he'll probably be better than that.
Now, let me assure you, Andrew, that I intend to live past 70. The information that Joe was citing there is not entirely erroneous. So it came from a study in 2007. I obviously was panic-stricken. And check this, that in 2007, when hip replacement operations were not great, and they were mainly done on older people, then, like in their 70s, 80s, then the average life expectancy, which it would have been anyway, was around 10 years. However, I can confirm now the surgery is at such an advanced level, and the hip replacements themselves are so bionic and fantastic that my hip, I'm told, will last up to 25 years. And I want to take a bet with you now and Joe Rogan. I will live as long, if not longer, than my new bionic hip. $500 says I outlive my hip.
You might live longer than me anyway, right?
That nigga blazing that motherfucking
But the thing is,
square.
look, I thought it was
The square.
Nobody was smack talking you there. You know, I sent you a DM.
No, I'm only kidding. You actually were very kind, and you sent me.
The Wilsons,
you
of
sent
course,
me you sent me a very nice message.
We of course wish you the best in recovery. So I do appreciate coming on the panels and you allowing me to tangle with other people's worldviews. And I think over the course of things, you deal with people enough, you kind of become friendly with them, and then eventually friends. That's how that works. And I did wish the best for you. I was sorry that happened. You came up in the course with Rogan because, of course, we're talking about different media personalities, and you're a character, right? So you're gonna come up. That's how that works. But I do wish you the very best, and that your recovery goes very smoothly.
Amen.
Just to be clear, I found it hilarious.
All right, man. This shit over with, man. Hey, man, I appreciate y'all for tuning in with your boy, man. We just did a quick reaction to this debate. You know, we talked about Trump, how he trying to, take over Greenland. I think that he should. It's okay to take over places if you do it properly. You know what I'm saying? Try to get some negotiations going. Just don't take it by force. And stuff like that. So, yeah, man, I appreciate you guys for tuning in, man. Let me know if you guys want me to react to anything. We got lectures on the way. We got debates on the way, man. So, tune in, baby. Thank y'all so much, man. Peace out.